What up, y'all? It's your boy Kaizen, and I've sunken so far deep into the depths that I cannot Delezie things anymore. But I do see how an apostle, decades in the making, have gone from a pesky, filth-ridden doggo to a tragic villain. And yes, Hilder's to blame again. Inae, and both normal and hard Delezie raids, have been out for quite some time, so I don't think a first impressions video would do my review of them justice. So I'll do it anyway, and add some more thoughts and opinions on the raids because I need to satisfy the DFO content overlords. Let's start with Inae. Looking back at Inae's initial release, the raid was terrifying. Some don't even consider it an actual raid because of its 8-man raid format. Even Fiend War had more players than this. Regardless, Inae served as a precursor to the actual raid for the Sunken Depths area. This doesn't mean that it's the guide mode for the future Delezie raids. The solo and matching guide modes will be released alongside it. Inae, lore-wise, is the contextual precursor to the Delezie raid, i.e. the part of the movie where the bad guy scheme succeeds and you meet the actual bad guy. To my veteran DFO players, you'll find your favorite baddies from Reshpawn, Village of Pain in their glow-up era. Scar, Mad Piper, and the Duke, among the few, are no longer DPS checks with some kind of bullet hell side gimmick. No, they got their own set of gimmicks and patterns now. But no worries, the main mechanic in this raid is the intrusion system. At least in phase 1, that is. Intrusion system gives you that hero landing feeling of arriving just in the nick of time to save your teammates from death and a free DPS window. Failing gimmicks finally have its saving grace, and it's whoever has time to intrude the battle. Because of this system, you can now have up to 5 players battling a boss at one time. But it gets better, because in the second phase, it's all 8 of you versus the main boss of Inae raid, the Duke. The Duke of Dukington, duking it out with the Duke. Bro went from being a vomit-colored Casper into an Elden Ring boss because lore accuracy. Anyways, phase 2 of the raid lets you and 7 of your teammates to duke it out with the Duke, along with his many gimmicks that require near perfect quick time event reflexes. He also has a dual colored gimmick that forces players to look at more than just themselves and the boss. And of course, more quick time events. Once you knock out this Kane wannabe, you go into phase 2 and fight him again, this time with map moving gimmicks akin to Moro's from 110 cap. And good luck to you if you can't separate the color gradients from one another, because most attacks blend too well with the warning zones, and with an untrained eye, you'll be eating them up at respawn. The gimmicks in Inae raid, in my opinion, have almost become a blink or you'll miss it minigame within a game. With its awesome visuals and cool 2.5 dimension cutscenes, it's hard to focus your attention on what matters most: your response time. Some of the gimmicks are forgiving, like with Lundior's butterflies and Scar's furnaces. But when it comes to the more difficult bosses like Marnaval and the Duke, you're almost expected to proactively set yourself up with such precision to the gimmick as if you already need to be in the middle of pressing a button just before the gimmick starts. Of course, naturally, it gets easier the more you run the raid, but the complexity and requirement to complete the gimmicks almost feel like the raid is not made for the general public. And that perception gets worse as we get into the Delezie raids. Delezie is a beast. literally and figuratively. Bro's a walking, breathing menace and is so toxic that they had to retcon his previous iterations just to prove how much more toxic it can get. Thanks Hildur for gaslighting him into what he is now. And Delezie acknowledges this too in his backstory, assuming you didn't skip through it. But alas, Hildur let this dog out, and now Britney Spears is on the PA spamming toxic the whole raid. Remember earlier when I said about Inae raid that some gimmicks have become a blink or you'll miss it minigame? I wasn't kidding, and some of the gimmicks here make Inae raid look like it was an accessibility training. But before I get into the gimmicks and gameplay, let me praise the unholy vibes the raid brings. The visuals are so immaculate that my nervousness came from how epic everything looked, and totally not me failing a sub-boss gimmick for the 10th time in a row. Mutilated, decomposing, rotting, disgusting, and it's all awesome. Apart from the Gooner bosses, the rest of the cast rocks. Amazing design overall, and the cutscenes for Delezie are a huge wow factor. And here I thought they were cooking with the paramedics, chimeras, and the newly reworked Dark Templar's Third Awakening cutscenes, but they were far from over. The details in the cutscenes during raid are by far the best I've seen, and it beautifully displays how mortifying it is to battle an apostle of plague. Reminds me of Shin Godzilla's larvae transformation, where he's bleeding his guts everywhere. Painful and gory, and terrifying. Okay, gimmicks. Again, they're nothing to scoff at. Like most raids, there are some gimmicks that are easy to get from the get-go, but some require you to do your homework before you enter the raid. Or you know, the best teacher in the world is failure, which not a lot of players like to do because time is money. Phase 1 is a mixed bag of those gimmicks, and some can be forgiving with the help of the raid's main mechanic, the plague reversal. Fail the gimmick and see a red flash, boom! Easy get out of jail free card. The raid went from being a brutal gimmick game to a DPS check with a reflex button. Seriously, it saved a lot of time for many players as the raid became easier to understand. Even with Phase 2's terrifying lineup of bosses before reaching Delezie were no match for Plague Reversal. Players like myself love watching big numbers appear, but it's even more appealing to watch a horrible boss's HP melt in seconds, all because of this one simple trick. And Delezie is not exempt from this powerful reversal. The mechanic is so powerful that you can stack it to apply an even bigger DPS multiplier and a stronger neutralization. But what fun is that when the game devs work so hard on having you see what they've been working on? I'll tell you what's even more fun. Destroying Delezie from 100 to 30 in seconds, and having Moo give us a DPS boost and refresh our cooldowns to do another rotation, eliminating the remaining 30%. If Catharsis ever captured a moment in time during the history of DFOG raids, it would be this moment. Finally, we have hard mode. And this isn't like the usual hard mode that the previous raids adopted. And it's not merely a substantial increase in HP and damage, or additional raid mechanics or what have you. No. Delezie hard mode has 4 phases. And you can't even go through the first phase without a time limit on a DPS check on bosses with brand new gimmicks. What a triple whammy. Forget terrifying visuals. Does your team do enough damage? Oh, but we have plague reversals. Psych! It's as scarce as primeval gear drops. And to switch it up, all the bosses from normal mode are now present, and you gotta defeat them all. And their gimmicks are in reverse order. How's that for a plague reversal? On top of having ridiculous HP and damage, and having little to no access to plague reversal, Not to mention that there's up to a 500% increase in HP if that's not enough. What if this was meant to be what raids are supposed to be? An actual, albeit semi-forced, systematic way of going through phases and getting rid of most of the power from the one mechanic most players rely on. By the way, did I forget to mention that the final phase in hard mode is a quick time event and a DPS check? And if you fail the DPS check, you fail the raid? That sounds exciting. All that work to reach the pinnacle of the raid, only for it to go to waste because someone messed up their DPS rotation. Oops. Maybe the most terrifying aspect of any raid is starting over again. I honestly would have done a separate first impressions video for Inae, normal and hard Delezie raids, but I figured I'd save you guys, and myself, some time, and put them all together since they're technically a progression towards the next. I will say that the hard mode was by far the most fun I've had in experiencing everything the raid has to offer, save for the restarts. Inae wasn't as much fun as it felt more like a one and done kind of deal where I do one gimmick and I start blasting all over the place just to get a few pieces of rubble. Normal Delezie was truly the bridge between Inae and hard mode in a way that it bridges the skill requirement, difficulty, and mechanics, and the quality goes up from there during hard mode. From 2 phases to 4 was such a monumental scale that overall it truly became a unique experience. There's literally no other raid like it, unlike Bakal being Fiend War 2.0 and God of Memories being Sirocco 2.0. There really are some raids that make me feel like I'm actually playing a well-crafted game and not just seeing how much damage I can do with what I've been hoarding for the past couple of years or so. It's your boy Kaizen, and I pass you guys the question. How did you feel about the Sunken Depths raids? Did it match your expectations? Did it go beyond? Did you metaphorically poop your figurative diapers when you saw Delezie's cutscenes? Because I totally didn't.
오늘따라 시원하게 오늘따라 시원하게 달리고 싶군.